just want to address, if it's not clear where I'm going with my thoughts as a Christian, I'd just like to say, what if? Because someone did that to me. What if? What if the two witnesses were the Twin Towers? What if the second outpouring of the Holy Spirit was 70s and 80s? When people had not only achieved the ability of the perfection of the fitness of the human form, but all of the dietary things, all of the, just to repeat, all of the dietary stuff. I'm not saying that a lot of us didn't fall on hard times and get broke sometimes, but the point is the 70s and 80s seem like the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, because we weren't wearing corsets, we weren't, restrained by clothing, but at the same time we knew conservative doesn't mean prissy or anything. It means you're conserving what works. We did what works. Anyway, so that's why I'm kind of proposing that has already occurred. The second outpouring of the Holy Spirit that all these Christians were told that we're waiting for. Like when I was a kid, the Christians were always saying, God is in control. But something inside me thought, well, why are we saying God is in control? Then you got to blame him for all the bad shit too. God's not a control freak. God is nature. He's in nature. Is in whom we live and move and have our being. Even Paul said that. And I just think that we should also be open-minded to what a lot of people, if you look at in the early Christian church, there were still all kinds of wars going on. The Khiton War, K-I-T-O-N. There was always the enemy. Jesus called it the Antichrist, but he said there was many Antichrists already out in the world. We're not just waiting for one major Antichrist. And some people even think that was the so-called Apostle Paul. When you think about Paul, in our life, what we learned about narcissism is they always want to co-opt a movement and steer it and get in control of the information. Now, in my experience, over half a century of being alive, and guess what? I dip my toe in everything, so I know a thing or two about human nature. I've met more than the average people in my life because I'm kind of curious, And people tell me things, so I learned a lot about human nature. Even, I'm not saying I'm smart. No, I drank way too much beer. I admit it. But I do think that I do know that about this tendency of human nature to have the rotten apples that pretend they're the good guys. They always are the pillars of society, you could call it, whether they're Freemasons or anything like that. So why can't Christians, if you say to anybody that maybe Paul is not so great, and I remember I was at somebody's house and their son was diagnosed schizophrenic, and I said, maybe Paul, we should just avoid Paul for a while. Oh, he manifested. So they really manifest. You know what Alex Jones said, you know a person by their enemies. So if you wonder if somebody is kind of not quite right, just ask them, can you just maybe not read Paul for 1 month and see if they manifest? Because Paul is a fantasy thinker. He's the one that makes everybody feel very comfortable in their not doing anything. No, don't do anything. Just have faith. faith is action. Faith is the Tao. You don't, like, faith is this. Like, they're faithful to the groove of this music. Doesn't mean you just sit there and think God's going to rescue it or whatever. And Paul is the one who kept that people, all the Christians are quoting, and it's true. I mean, it's the truth. Just test it. Test it on somebody that you don't really like, but they call themselves a Christian. Just say, do you think you could just, for 1 week, don't ever quote Paul? And they will start foaming at the mouth and start telling you every reason why Paul is so this, and he's the apostle to the Gentiles. Paul. And that just makes me think all the more. Maybe Paul is the Antichrist. The anti just meaning the substitution. He's a substitution Jesus, the substitution church. So anyways, that's all I'm saying is my point is I'm not going backwards here. I'm not trying to live back in time. I'm only trying to say, do what Jesus said, which is occupy till I come. We're supposed to see that this is the sign of the fig tree. Think about the fig. Wasps are born in figs, and wasps make hives too. We're in the hive mind, and that hive has a six-sided shell just like a bee. Maybe that's what the fig tree is. Maybe. What if? And what if occupying till he comes just means, look, we're in the times that we're seeing the best. Now be faithful to what we learned in the second outpouring of the Holy Spirit, which is like circa this time right here when you see people having so much fun after all the suffering. We had a little bit of a break, and no one saw this coming. I'm talking about the bad guys like Albert Pike. I don't think with all their agendas to plan all these racial wars and stuff, I don't think that they knew that there would be dancing like this or music like that. Got it?